What's up? What's up, everybody? Hope everybody's good. Today, I wanted to do something and just kind of give you guys a bit of an update on the Waaq Nation front. So, essentially, what happened is that I've been in a lot of conversations, right, as a Somali person, um, and as I called myself a Somali weaver. So, essentially, what we're doing is what I this was just to answer a simple question that I had asked a long time ago. What was the question? The question I had asked was, prior to the advent of Islam, what did Somali people practice? Right? What did they have? Because I simply refused to kind of believe that my people, the Somali people, were, you know, didn't have anything, or like the way they're portrayed, it's almost as though they didn't have any notion of a higher being, or any notion of a of a of a divine force, right? So for answering this question, essentially, it took me down, a long path, which was a path that actually I'm very, very grateful I went down on, because essentially what it did is it helped me rediscover who I am, in essence, right? And where my ancestors were, and what they practiced. That being said, I had gone, at great lengths. One of the issues, right, in researching the old ways of the Somali people was the fact that not a lot of what was written by by the Somali people, because we are known as the nation of poets. So a lot of our history and a lot of our folklore and tales and such are trapped in in the poetry form, right? In spoken language and spoken word. Um, we call it gabai, essentially. And so it's very difficult when you're trying to do research. You would have to talk to a lot of elders. You have to take the perception of others on your people, i.e., like Ibn Battuta, for example, who was a great world traveler of Moroccan descent, or I am Lewis, or a lot of other writers. But you're always looking at your history through the lenses of others. So, and and with all the complications that might arise from that. So essentially, what um, I tried to do is get as much information as I could, compile it in some way, and have it presented to everyone. That being said, that then the advent of a book, a guide, um, called The Sacred Path of Ebbe Waaq. It's a contemporary guide to Somali spirituality. Essentially, when you're Somali, right, a lot of Somalis are Muslim, right? For the great majority of Somalis are Muslim. But it's almost as though I've been in a lot of conversations, in Clubhouse or TikTok or any other platform, even here on YouTube. And essentially, the conversation that I'm having with a lot of Somali people is, all right, even if we were to renounce and we were to say, okay, well, Islam is not for us, and uh, does that mean we have to become atheists, or does that mean we have to become agnostic? I mean, to each his own, and you can do whatever. But there are other alternatives, right? Other than turning to other religions, other world religions that are known now. So what I did is I kind of went on a bit of a search, a bit of a self discovery, if you will, of my own people, my own history, and kind of came up with it's a short guide. It's available on Amazon. It's called. I'm gonna put it in down below for everyone. I'll put the link that where you can order it on Amazon. It's a book. It's a small guide, 50 pages, not too long. Essentially, what I wanted to do was give that alternative, and the way that I practice Waqiya, the way I practice Somali spirituality, on paper, and something that we can at least kind of refer to, if you will. This is the beginning of many, and I hope that the Somali people will write their history from their own lenses and from their own perspective. So today, I didn't want to be long-winded. What I wanted to do is give a bit of an introduction of what the book is. Maybe read a couple of paragraphs from the book, and send you on your way. And at least this way, you can go get the book, read it. Right now, it's in English only. I'm working on having it in Somali as well as other languages. But it takes work and it takes time. So I wanted to at least share what I have right now, which is available for purchase on Amazon as well. So this is the Sacred Path of Ebbe Waaq. Um, it's a spiritual call and a cultural awakening for the Somali people. In the silence of our savannas, the chants of our poets, and the rhythms of our livestock, the voice of Ebbe Waaq has echoed through time. Long before the arrival of foreign ideologies and external influences, our ancestors recognized Ebbe Waaq, the sky god, the source, the sustainer of all that exists. They live in accordance with natural law and moral order, guided not by dogma, but by experience, observation, and reverence for the divine. Now, in these times of fragmentation and forgetfulness, this work aims to return us to our divine roots. It is not a rejection of the present, but a reclamation of the sacred truths that guided our past. The seven principle: truth, balance, order, harmony, law, morality, and justice are not new teachings. They are the very foundation upon which our ancestors stood tall. Now, this guide offers a path forward that is uniquely Somali, deeply spiritual, and eternally connected to Egawa. Let these words serve as a lantern in the darkness, guiding our people back to unity, wisdom, and divine purpose. That's just the intro. Gonna go into to other things, but I really wanted to touch upon the fact that spirituality, the way I see it, right, the way I see it, spirituality and the connection with the Most High, essentially is, and I always use this metaphor. I use the metaphor of breathing, right? Breathing essentially is the basis of any living thing, at least human beings. When I'm breathing, and when you're breathing, we're both breathing in oxygen. We're all it's the good old O2, right? We're all breathing in oxygen. However, and I want you to think of oxygen as the Most High, as the divine force, as the spiritual realm, if you will. But the thing is, in order for me to process that oxygen, I'm not using anyone else's lungs. I'm using my own. I'm using my lungs to process the same oxygen that you're probably breathing in as well, except you're using your own lungs and I'm using my own lungs. So I'm using the metaphor in terms of the lungs essentially being our access or our road or our path to that spirituality, to plug into the divine. We can each have our own way. I think one of the greatest fallacies that I've ever witnessed as a human being is the fact that people think that there's a one size fits all type of approach to spirituality, and I think that's a little bit infantile, to be honest with you. It's just power play, is what it comes down to. So if I'm using my lungs to breathing the same oxygen that you're breathing in, you using your own lungs, then why can we not see the oxygen, right, as the divine force, as the divine realm and spiritual realm, in our lungs being the path that we each use? That's. I'm not sure if you're catching my drift, but essentially that's the metaphor that I often use in order to share how I perceive spirituality, right, and the way we are accessing the divine and the spiritual realm. So essentially, this book, this guide, is there for just to share the way I see it. Our spirituality should be. I believe that we should each breathe in with our own lungs. I think religion, the way I see it, right, religion, the term religion, is really just a deification, the deification of a culture. Now, what other culture, right, would you rather be if not your own? If you're not able to take your place in the mosaic of the world nations or the world people, and if you're not able to take your appropriate place, then what is it all for? Are we trying to create robots that are all similar, all moving to the same rhythm? Or are we going to be able to say, no, nature has made us different for a reason? And I think that's a beautiful thing, honestly. When I look into different ways of different paths to spirituality from the different nations of the world, I'm always amazed. I'm always curious. But I can't help but think that's because I know who I am and I know what my path is. And I'm not trying to duplicate anything else, but rather go on my own way, right? Find my own path, plug into that spiritual realm, plug into the divine force using purely a Somali approach. And essentially, what I was hoping for this guide, essentially, what I was hoping is to maybe have and start a conversation about what were and who were Somalis prior to the advent of Islam. Because way too many times I see my people defining themselves, right? Defining themselves, basing themselves on a foreign ideology. And honestly, I think that that's one way of losing. Um, that's one way to lose your connection with the divine. So I'm not going to be long-winded in this video. I just wanted to maybe do a little quick intro. Maybe I'll read up on one of the seven principles, right? The seven principles. Actually, you know what? You know what I'll do? I'll do the divine revelation, which is essentially a portion of chapter one, right? And I'll read off the book, the voice of Ebbe Waaq, the Waaq, divine revelation. In the beginning, before form or sound, there was only Ebbe Waaq, the infinite sky, the source of all that was and all that shall ever be. From the silence of eternity, Ebbe Waaq willed forth Nug, darkness, and Nim, light. From their union came Nolosha, life itself. Nug and Nim are not forces of opposition, but of harmony. They embody the eternal rhythm of existence, the rise and the fall, the seen and the unseen, the waking and the dreaming. In the ancient Somali understanding, light is not always good and darkness is not always evil. Each plays its divine role, maintaining the sacred balance through which the universe breathes. Then Ebiwak stretched forth and brought into being Dul, the sky, and Dal, the earth. Between them flowed all forms of creation: the waters, the winds, the trees, the herbs, and the spirit of humankind. Dul was given vastness, while Dal was given fertility. Together they danced the eternal rhythm of giving and receiving, the breath of life that sustains the world. Among the first living, among the first living beings was Tuke, the crow, known to the elders as Balle, the winged one. The crow became a sacred messenger of Ebiwak, the agent of goodness and wisdom. In the age when silence cloaked the earth, Tuki cried out for the first time, a cry that echoed across creation. Waq. That sacred sound shattered the stillness and gave birth to speech, the bridge between the divine and the mortal. The crow, by uttering the holy name of the source, opened the throat of humankind, granting them the gift of language and invocation. To this day, this ancient echo lives within the Somali tongue. When one says, Wansotu Kanaya, meaning I am going to pray, it literally means I go to do as the crow did. In that phrase, the soul remembers. The prayer is not just speech, but the sacred act of calling the name of Ebbe Waaq, as the crow once did at the dawn of creation. Ebbe Waaq, the eternal and supreme creator, has always been present in the hearts of the Somali people. Long before outside beliefs arrived, our ancestors revered Ebbe Waaq as the source of life, rain, sky, and justice. The divine presence was not found in temples or distant lands, but in the winds, the stars, the animals, and the spoken word of the elders. Somalis lived in a spiritual rhythm with nature, guided by an internal compass shaped by ancestral wisdom. The Somali oral tradition, poetry, storytelling, and proverbs carried sacred truths passed down from generation to generation. Elders, poets, and healers were not just cultural leaders, they were spiritual custodians of Wah's message. In these times of confusion and disconnection, the voice of Ebbe Waaq calls once again for the Somali people to return to the original path, a way of life governed by truth, balance, and justice. That's just an excerpt from the book. I'm hoping to do a bit more reading and speak a bit more about Waqia, the ancestral belief system of the Somali people. It's not just Somali people, let me correct that real quick. It's the Cushitic people. And Somalis are Cushitic people, but it's not just the Somalis, the Afaris, the Bejas, the Rendiles, there's many of them, right? The Abron. So essentially, it was shared, and they each practiced it in their own little way. The Oromos still practice it today. The Rendile people, who are known to be like, you know, Somalis that kind of left, you know, the lands where Somalis currently live, and they went to Kenya simply because they didn't want to take on Islam, and they still practice Waqiyah, you know, in their form, in their own form. So essentially, the Somali people had a way, they had a connection with the divine, they had their own path, and I think I'm just trying to revive that in the Somali people as much as I can, at least, and share what I know and what I've learned while I'm here on Earth. But I think that's it for this today. Hope to see you again. But I'm gonna probably do a bit more reading, and then we're gonna get into it some more. But until next time, welcome.